You are now listening to the Do It Movement podcast, where we share our experiences in real estate investing and encourage you to take action. You don't want to miss what we have in store today, so let's welcome our host, Martine Richardson, and our co-host, Lori Eubanks.
What's up, Do It Movement listeners? This is your host, Martine Richardson, your buy and hold coach. And I have my co-host, Lori Eubanks. Today, we are joined with the Jeff Watson. How are you doing today, Jeff?
I'm doing better and better. It is a privilege to be here with y'all.
We are excited. This is going to be a good one.
I'm looking forward to it. I am looking forward.
Well, we're excited to have you and just learn about your journey. So that's the first thing we wanted to ask is, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you jumped into real estate.
Well, I could take 5 hours to talk about that. Let's just hit the high points. My name's Jeff. I'm a real estate investor on a part-time basis, always been a part-time investor, full-time practicing attorney, beginning to wind down my practice, beginning to spend more time saying no than yes to people that want to be clients. That's where I am now. I mean, I've done a lot of stuff over 34 years of practicing law and 30 years of real estate investing. But I got started. There's 2 things I'll tell you I got started. Number one, I knew even in high school, God wanted me to be a lawyer. I knew it. I didn't know that he was going to send me down the path he sent me down. I thought I was going to do some really fun stuff and, First Amendment, free expression, free exercise clauses of the U.S. Constitution. Turns out that is the most boring area of law in my world. I just can't stand it, okay? But evidence and civil procedure and things like that really clicked for me. So I found myself pretty quickly doing a lot of courtroom work on behalf of injured workers, behalf of people that got hurt. And so I learned very quickly how the law really functioned, not what the theory that you see on TV, not that accelerated, everybody's happy and, no, it's a grind. I discovered that what they teach you in law school has nothing to do with practicing law or running a business. So anyhow, I quickly realized about 3-4 years into my law practice that I was just merely swapping hours for dollars, and it was going nowhere fast. So I knew that I needed to do something different. And I had been looking at all these different things over time. I had two uncles that were in real estate as landlords. One of them never got past the 8th grade. One of them, despite having a learning disability, despite having a little bit of a speech impediment, despite never getting past the 8th grade, despite getting kicked out of school and sent to the Navy as soon as his mom could sign for him, okay? The day after he turned old enough for mom to sign to ship him away, he was gone, okay? That guy had become a multi-millionaire by investing in residential real estate. And so I'm like, okay, I know he's smart. I love this uncle of mine. And another uncle of mine was doing fairly well with it. Different markets, different strategies, but so on. So I was like, okay, this can be done. I'm smart. I can brain my way through it. Boy, did I stumble, stutter, fall down, bang myself up. And for 10 years, I was just a stubborn, grind it out, do it myself kind of guy. From 94 to 2004. And then I started attending a lot of different events. Met some people. I'm still in business with some of the people today. A company called Real Flow. Met Greg Clement. He and I co-founded it. If you don't know what Real Flow is, folks, you're missing the 800-pound gorilla in the real estate space. We are the number one CRM. Everybody white labels us. But anyhow, I started buying and holding. My first purchase was January of 1994, January 94. Still own that house today.
I bet you got a deal.
I've added to it. I've done some more. I've done short sales. I've done fix and flips. I've done some lending. I've done single families. I've done multifamilies. I've done commercial. And I've now kind of figured out what I want to do, where I want to go. And I always am now looking at things that are from 3 lenses: peace, freedom, and tax avoidance. Peace, freedom, and tax avoidance. Those are the things that guide everything I want to do. I am not interested in scaling up to be that mega guy with 1,000 doors to my name. Not interested. Peace and freedom. That's what I'm after. That's where I'm going. And I do not like paying taxes. I do not like it. I will find any way I can through real estate strategies, through Roth IRAs, Roth 401ks, to avoid paying taxes on money that I'm growing and earning.
Jeff, did that lesson was that a hard lesson you learned on taxes? Did you get a big tax bill and decide that would be a priority?
No, it really wasn't that. It was really something my favorite uncle taught me. This was back, I was still in college, and this was like 1984. And he was on a rampage because he had to pay $37,000 in taxes to the IRS in 1984. And my stepdad goes, 37 grand, that's how much I made last year. And my uncle's like, I'm getting it all back. And here's the strategies. And he spent 5 minutes explaining the strategies of what he was going to do with advanced accelerated depreciation and cost segregation and income averaging, all the stuff you could do pre-86 tax reform. And so I knew from then that you had to understand the tax code. And so I have deliberately run most of my investment businesses and investment activities with an eye on the tax code as to how to legally do things with paying less in taxes. Now, that has also been a limiting factor for me because I've never wanted to go out and chase the big income. I've always wanted to chase just enough income to get everything done I needed to do and keep the tax bill as low as possible.
That's amazing. And because you've done all the things, you've worn all the hats as, the investor, the lender, you've flipped, rental, what is your favorite method today? I'm sure it's changed over the years, but for today, what is the best way for you to invest?
The two things that get me excited and interested is buying a good quality property that cash flows and doing it with creative terms. That gets me excited. The second thing that gets me excited is structuring a lending arrangement where my money is wrapping somebody else's money. My money's Roth money, wrapping somebody else's money and making an obscene rate of return. And obscene means it's double digits before the decimal point, and that first digit has got to be crooked. It cannot and it can't just have one curve. It's got to have more than a curve. It's got to have a curve in it. You know what I mean?
I get you.
So let me explain for anybody that's not picking up what I'm putting down. I like rates of return that begin with a 3 and then another digit and then the decimal point.
Yeah, I love that.
And when you wrap the right way, you hit those numbers.
And so just, for listeners that may not know what a wrap is, just a high level description, what is a wrap?
Sure. So the wrap, there's a lot of different ways to do wraps. So thank you for asking that question, Laura. Very good question to clarify. The wraps that I do are 2 loans made at the same time. For example, I'm just going to pick on the 2 of you. I'm going to incorporate you on this, okay? So Lori needs $100,000. Martine's got 80 sitting in the bank not doing anything, and Jeff's got 20 sitting in a Roth IRA that just came back from another deal. So Jeff says to Martine, hey, would you like to make 9% on that $80,000? And she's like, yeah, man, that's better than what I'm making in the bank. And Lori like, I'll pay 12% for $100,000. So Jeff would say, okay, Martine, you're going to lend $80,000 to Lori at 9%, and I'm going to lend $20,000 to Lori at 12%. But Lori's going to sign a note saying she's paying 12 on all of the money. So there's 2 notes, 2 mortgages. My note and mortgage wraps around Martine's in a second position. So Martine gets paid first. Jeff eats last. Lori pays on time. And Jeff makes an obscene rate of return, and Martine gets her money back, was secured with a mortgage. She makes 9%. She's happy. She made 9 times more than what the bank was paying. Everybody's happy. Lori has a good deal, makes money. Everybody's good.
I love it because it's such a way to change your thinking. Well, I don't know who has it, but someone does when you have a good deal. So just asking around and securing on the property is so smart. How much time do you think it takes you to do a wrap deal?
Not much. And this is where some of my friends got in my grill the other day. A couple of weeks ago, we're sitting in one of my favorite Jewish delis in Cleveland, Ohio. Folks, if you do not like matzo ball soup and corned beef sandwiches, I'm sorry. I'll pray for you, okay? Just going to tell you. So we're sitting in this deli and we're having a great conversation. And one of my friends, one of the smartest private lenders I know, he says to me, so how you doing with this one? And I just said, well, Ron, here's the numbers I ran over this period of time. This is how I've grown this much to this. And he looked at me and he goes, just imagine what you do if you were serious about it, instead of doing this on an occasional part-time, half-baked basis. And so I was like, okay, yeah. And today, it doesn't take me much time to do these things. Biggest, most tedious process that I have now in these deals is communicating with other self-directed IRA custodial employees what the deal looks like, because they have never done it. They're great companies, but the people that are pushing the paperwork don't understand the deal because they've never done it. And it's a challenge. I mean, just this morning, I'm literally going, that person from this custodial company is rendering a legal opinion, and I know they don't have a legal law degree. So let's just do it this way and see what they say. So anyhow.
Oh, I love it. I mean, and you can do many deals at one time without, feeling it. So,
right.
And people trust you because you have such high integrity. So I'm sure a lot of people, when they're looking to invest, they probably think of you.
And that's something that I'm very, very careful with, because I only will put people into deals with me where they're going to be better protected than I am. And the money that I'm putting to work is half mine and half my mom's. And so I'm like, okay, this is how this pecking order goes. You, my mom, me. And when they realize that I'm willing to get in line behind everybody else as far as how things get paid, they're like, okay, this must be a good deal then. And so that's the way we've run them. And so far so good. I've got a couple of loans out there right now. I've got 3 loans out there right now where the borrower is slow but paying. And there's enough equity, I don't really care. I'm making more money because they're not paying on time. That default interest rate, those late fees.
Yeah.
When
you buy low enough and you lend low enough, the risk is so much less. Have you ever had to foreclose on anyone?
Any loan I've done, no.
Awesome.
On any loan that my clients that have let me underwrite. I mean, I want to be clear, not just do one document, but do the whole package. We've never, knock on wood, had to do that. I've had a number of people come to me because they did the deal without my help, and they need it fixed, and then we're sometimes able to do it. Sometimes I got to send to a foreclosure attorney. And there's a doctor in Atlanta that did some crazy deals. It was sent to me by one of my mentors. We looked at it. I connected him with one of the best foreclosure attorneys in Ohio. We ended up blowing up a huge Ponzi scheme. The guy that was creating the Ponzi schemes now on his way to federal prison.
Wow!
All because we looked at something and said, "This ain't right." This doctor was taking a hard money lending class and said, "Whoa, I did all these things wrong. How do I fix it?" And well, his fixing caused somebody else to stop screwing other people. So we're very happy about that. Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. So I know you have all these different hats and you can see the value in lending. So you are, doing them as they come. But I can only imagine if you were doing that, full time. What do you do with your time? What does a Jeff Watson week look like? Is it filled with networking or deal flow or, practicing law? What is your, day?
Too much of my time is spent practicing law. Not enough time is spent working my own deals. Annoys me. I do get at least 1 or 2 networking opportunities a weekend every week. Sometimes it's, I'll just go to the McDonald's where Pete Fortunato is. Sometimes I'll do something else. So I get some networking in, and I lead a little online, community group where we talk about creative deals and self-directed IRAs and so on. So I'm doing that twice a month. I write an email newsletter, goes out to about 10,000 readers, which go out about twice a week. I do some lobbying work in Washington, D.C. I do some fundraising work for some candidates right now. I'm influencing housing policy in the state and federal level. So I've got a lot of things going on, but I think the biggest time suck for me, and I use the word carefully, time suck, is working with real estate clients, fixing the mistakes they made before they brought me on board. That is the biggest time suck. And that is something that is just, it drains me. It really drains me. And I've only got a few hours a day I can actually do that before I'm just like, I'm not social anymore.
Yeah.
Right. So I know you mentioned that you like to do creative deals. So let's talk a little bit about like subject to deals.
Okay. So thank you for saying subject to, because that is the correct term. That is the term used in deeds and in title commitments. So thank you for using that term.
That's the only term I know for it. But so for people that don't know what that is, subject to is you're buying a property, but you're leaving the mortgage in place. You are transferring ownership, but you're leaving that mortgage in place. And maybe Jeff has a more, a narrowed down definition. So am I missing anything in my definition?
You actually were too narrow in your definition.
Okay.
You're more precise than you needed to be. Almost every real estate transaction is a subject to transaction. Every piece of land in the United States of America is conveyed from one party to another subject to certain restrictions. Utility line easements, roadways, future tax liabilities, things like that. What you're referring to more specifically, and you got very specific, is when a property is transferred without paying off a voluntary lien or mortgage on the property. And I notice I use the word voluntary, as in this seller was previously a borrower, put that property up as collateral, a lien was recorded against it via mortgage or a deed of trust, and now they're selling that property subject to that existing institutional bank finance pretender lender serviced who knows where. Money ends up in whatever pension fund, hedge fund, we don't know. They're selling it subject to that, where the buyer who receives the deed knows that they're taking it subject to that existing lien, and they are committing on a moral basis, not on a legal basis, but on a moral basis, to continue to keep that payment paid on time as agreed.
Right. So when you're doing these types of transactions, what would you say is the best way to hold title when buying a property? Like, what entity is best? And I don't know if that's a loaded question.
It's a great question. It's a fantastic question. And I'm going to give this answer. Title should vest in the name of a trustee of a title holding trust, formerly known as land trust, that you, the buyer, create for the closing. And I want to be very clear here. The seller has nothing to do with that trust. You create the trust. You, the investor, are the grantor that creates the trust. You identify that the beneficiary of that trust is your buy and hold real estate holding entity. And then you put somebody else in as trustee. You can put yourself in, you can put spouse, business partner, anybody else in as trustee. That's the way I would take title to every subject to transaction. In the eyes of the law, that trust exists for holding title. In the eyes of the IRS, that trust does not exist for tax purposes. So the tax consequences flow to the beneficiary, which is your buy and hold LLC. And now when I do a subject to transaction, I have one of two exit strategies. I'm very boring. I go right or I go left. Okay? Because complexity is the enemy of success. The more simple I can be, the more likely I am to succeed. Think about that. I need to remember that one. The more simple I can be, the more likely I am to succeed.
I'm writing this
That
down.
might actually be a little jingle. Who knows?
We're going to have to put that in the show notes.
Yeah.
That's a nice little jingle. Just think about it. Look at In-N-Out Burger. Look at Chick-fil-A, how simple they are with their menu, but how successful they are. So anyhow, Southwest Airlines, same thing. One class of seats, get on, sit down, shut up, let's go. So I like to either take properties subject to and buy and hold them and run them as rentals. I like that. That has been a very nice technique for me over the last 4 years. Okay, very nice technique for me over the last 4 years. I've added a good chunk to my net worth as a result of those things. The other technique that is buy it and resell it on a wrap all-inclusive transaction. Resell on a wrap all-inclusive, which means that my end buyer pays me. So Lori pays me because she's buying the property from me on a wrap all-inclusive transaction. So Lori makes a payment to me, and from that payment to me, I now go make Martine's existing mortgage payment, and I keep the difference every month.
Sounds great.
That's my money. That money comes from either the arbitrage in the interest rate, the difference in the purchase prices, or the fact of I have accelerated the pay down of Martine's mortgage one way or another. But if she owes $280,000 on this property, and I get Lori to pay me $340 for it, and I collect a $20,000, $30,000 down payment, so Lori's paying on $310 over 30 years. Martine's already been in this property for 5 years, so it's 25 years left. I've got three different deltas price points, the term, the length of the loan, and the interest rates where I'm making money on those wrap all inclusives. And this is, I'm going to just preach. When you do it this way, when you do these things on the correct way with the wrap all inclusive, you are making an additional hundreds of thousands of dollars than these knuckle dragging jokers that are assigning these subject to transactions for $20,000 or $30,000 entry fees. They are
we love you already.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table.
You heard it from Jeff, not just from me.
Those properties.
Let's be smarter and let these properties and these notes that we're creating do the work for us.
That note that you're creating has massive, massive income potential. I mean, the mindset mentality of, okay, I'm the shiny rabbit in the race and I want my $30,000 entry fee and I'm going to go waste it, but I don't realize that half of it could be taxable income, versus that plodding, ugly green reptile, aka the tortoise, who says, man, I got something good here. Let's stick this thing out for the next 30 years. I don't mind collecting payments for the next 30 years. I don't mind putting a few $100s a month every month in my pocket for the next 30 years. You know,
this is the right mindset to have. I had to not tell Jeff to say that, but you're preaching what I preach. So I just want you guys to hear the reoccurring theme of to think long term when you're doing these deals. But a lot of people find it, alarming, or alarming is probably not the right word. They don't believe that you can convince or get a seller to agree to something like this. Why would they want to keep their mortgage in place and they don't have anything to do with the property anymore? So how do you go in and bring up this idea to someone that's selling a house to you to make it advantageous for them to want to do it?
Because I'm offering them something that they can't get anywhere else. I'm offering them a solution when no one else can do anything. I'm stepping in and going, hey, listen, I know you don't have any money to bring to closing. I know that you're 3 months behind on your house payments. I know that if nothing else happens, you're going to lose the house to foreclosure and you're going to have your credit score is going to go down 240 points. Why don't you let me step in, buy the house subject to, I'll correct the late payments. I'll make the payments on time, and we go from there. Now, there's times I've structured those kind of deals, and the seller says to me, I like you, but I don't trust you. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'll let you keep title in your name, and we'll do it through a land installment contract method. We'll record the land contract. And once I pay so long, then you got to give me the deed. And we're actually going to close one of those deals later this month.
I love it.
Where I bought it on a land contract, recorded the land contract, title has stayed in my seller's name. I've made my payments to him on his equity. I've kept the same tenant in there. I've cash flowed the underlying payment to the bank out of the tenant's income. And now I'm like, I've done this for 3 years. It's time to give me the deed. But the other catalyst that's coming along on that particular deal is, for 3 years now, I've been paying this subsidiary of Wells Fargo, and I've decided that I want them out of my life, and I've got another deal wrapping up. So I'm going to go over and get rid of the institutional debt, move my private lender money over onto this property, get rid of the institutional, take the title, and then I've got the choice of what am I going to do with this house? Am I going to continue to keep it as a long-term rental and bring it up to market rate? Or am I going to resell on a wrap all-inclusive? One of the two. We'll see.
I love it. So are there any additional agreements that you put in place? I know for if someone doesn't trust you, you came up with a solution to show that you are going to do what you said. But are there additional agreements that you would put in place with this?
Yep. If you would go to a website that I have called SeriousSubject2.com, you would see a list of all of the documents that I've prepared to do these transactions. SeriousSubject2.com. A complete list. I have a comprehensive list of probably 20 different documents on buying a subject to property and then reselling it on a wrap all inclusive. And every document has a purpose about how we're buying it. So either we use a purchase and sales agreement that I use, or we use an addendum to the state realtor form that we have to use. And we just go from there. We have acknowledgments, we have disclosures, we have assignments of the escrow account, we have powers of attorneys, we have authorizations to release information. We have, hey, this is what you're going to tell your tax professional regarding this house. This is what happened from a tax perspective. Go give them this information. Here's what happens going forward. If you get the 1098 from the bank regarding this, you can't claim it because you didn't pay it. I did. I put all that in writing, all in different documents.
Okay. And you said that's
Yeah.
SeriousSubject2.
SeriousSubject2.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So what if the seller that sold you that property, they go through a bankruptcy? And is that mortgage tied into that?
It depends. That is a question I get asked so often. My response back is, when was the bankruptcy filed in relationship to when the deed was recorded? The deed going from the seller to my trustee. If that deed was recorded in January and they filed bankruptcy in August, I'm going to yawn. I don't care. We're beyond the trustee clawback period. And the second question is, what kind of bankruptcy? 7 or 11? I'm sorry, 7 or 13. 7 or 13. 11 is an institutional business bankruptcy. Which one are we doing? Because if we're doing a 13, you're reaffirming and you're reorganizing, so I'm not worried at all. If you're doing a 7 discharge and I've had the property for more than 4 months, preferably 6 months, I'm sorry, it's beyond the reach of the trustee for clawback period. I've got a valid deed. I've been making the payments. Goodbye. Leave me alone, Mr. Trustee. Statute doesn't let you have me. Right. Now, if I do a deal on January and that person turns right around and BKs on Valentine's Day, I got a problem. I may have to give the house back.
Okay. So giving the house back is an option for you if I guess it just doesn't work to.
Here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. And this is going to shock a lot of people. So I'm going to have multiple conversations with my seller on a subject to transaction. I'm going to have this conversation about, are you thinking about filing bankruptcy? And they're going to say, oh, no, not at all. I said, are you sure? Is there anything that could change in your circumstances where you think you might want to need to file bankruptcy in the next 6 to 9 months? Is there any other bills, medical crisis, car accidents, loss of job, anything going on, divorce, anything going on where you think you might have to file bankruptcy? And they're going to tell me no. And so we'll do the deal in January. And then on Valentine's Day, if they go file for bankruptcy, I'm going to be like, you were a liar, you were a cheat, you were a bum, you're a thief. Get out of my life. Here's the house back. Goodbye.
Right.
I'm going to cut my losses right then. I do not want to be doing business with somebody who is not a person of their word.
Right. So you want to do business with people of integrity, people that are going to do what they say they're going to do.
Yep, exactly. Okay. And if for some reason they're going to have a problem with doing it, they're going to tell me in advance. They may call me up and they go, hey, Jeff, something changed, My spouse lost her job, and so now we're really having to look at bankruptcy. I'm going to be, we're like 68 days from when we did the deed. Is there any way you can hang on for another month before you file? Is there any way you can hang on for another month? Because if I can get past 90 days, then I got an argument to the trustee that I can keep the house. So anyhow.
So what about the people that they stress the due on sale clause on these mortgages? And they say, what if they call the note?
Okay. And hey, it can happen. It's not happened to me, but it could happen. It could very well happen. And you've got pretty much a 60 to 90 day runway to deal with it. So don't mess around. Okay? Don't mess around. You got 60 to 90 days to go find a private lender to go replace that institutional debt, or you got 60 to 90 days to get that house sold. Don't play around. Okay? And whatever you do, if you don't hear anything else I say the rest of this podcast, please listen to this. Don't ever, 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 ever lie or send a made up or fictitious document to the bank trying to hide what you're doing. That is what we call fraud. That will get you in orange, and you'll get 3 hots and a cot. That's
yes,
simple.
Let's avoid that at all costs. Let's do honest business.
We don't look at an orange.
So what's been a game changer for you? Like, what's a resource that you can share with people that are listening that really, I know you said you had your uncles that help you, think this way. You were working. You knew you wanted to be an attorney since high school, but you're like, I'm not getting ahead like I want. So I got into real estate. But what's a game changer that was for you that you can share with people, a resource, a book, whatever, that you think could really help the people?
I'm gonna share a couple of ideas. For me, the number one consistent game changer is continuing to keep my heart and my mind in the right place through my relationship with Jesus Christ. Daily spending time in the Bible, daily spending time praying. That is, when I go do something stupid in a business deal, God has the ability to smack me across the head with what I see in Scripture. And, he's smacking me across the head right now on a couple of deals. And I'm like, okay, God, I get the message. Can you kind of bail me out? I promise I'm not going to do this again. I'm going to work hard to get out of this, but can you help me a little bit? Okay. Second thing is finding a network, finding a tribe, finding a group of people that is what you want to be. I enjoy sitting down with guys that are 5, 10, 20 years older than me that have made more money than I've made doing certain things in real estate. And I just will shut up and listen because I'll learn something from them. So those are the two big game changers for me. And you're constantly elevating it. And the last game changer I'm going to say is this. There is so much noise in the real estate space. There is so much noise. And so much of it is garbage. And it is those that are broke pretending they're not, acting like they're a success when they're not. They're trying to fake it till they make it. And the big thing that comes back to me over and over and over and over again is that after about 20 years of really good hard work and doing things the right way, I suddenly realized I was getting to be an overnight success.
Amazing.
After about 20 years of quietly working away, grinding at it, then I was like, maybe I'm starting to become a little bit of an overnight success. Yeah.
Amazing. Your journey is so amazing, Jeff. And you've shared so many big ideas and strategies. I know you've inspired someone today because I'm going to be researching a few things. I hope that,
okay.
Yeah, if anyone would like to reach out to you or get a hold of you, what would be the best way?
There is one good way to get a hold of me, and that is I have a blog called WatsonInvested.com. WatsonInvested.com. My oldest son named it for me, and I think it was one of the most strategic things I've done in a long time is creating that blog and getting it named. You can go to that blog, and you can do one of two things. You can subscribe for my free email newsletter. I got about 10,000 people that read it twice a week, so maybe it's worth what you paid for it. It's free. And then secondly, if you really need to talk to me about a problem situation, IRA, subject to 401k, something like that, you can always use that same blog and book an online consultation with me. And it's obviously, you're going to pay me for my time. And if I can't help you, I'll flat out tell you I can't help you and give you your money back. But if I can give you some advice or point you in the right direction, I'll do it and keep your money.
Love it. I love it. So you guys know that I'm Martine Richardson. I am your buy and hold coach. If you are interested in joining my free buy and hold community, we talked all things long term in this podcast. The name of that group, it's on Facebook. It's called The Freedom Inc. We'd love to have you. We have 4 questions that you have to answer, but it's completely free. How can people get a hold of you, Lori?
Yeah, I'm Lori Eubanks here in Richmond. I am on all the social medias. You can reach out to me through that. And also Martine will share my email address. And if I can help anyone work private money, work in deals, we have strong deal flow, always looking for partnership, and we'd love to hear from you.
Okay, well, Jeff, we really appreciate you coming onto the podcast, adding so much value to our listeners. What is something that, how can we add some value to you? We like to ask.
There's probably 2 things that I would say. I would appreciate your prayers. And the second thing is I would tell anybody and everybody that's in this buy and hold movement, which I love the idea of buy and hold. That is my life. Get registered to vote and vote for policies, not people, but vote for policies that are going to further the buy and hold strategy that you're so heavily working towards. Vote for the policies that do it. That would be the most monumental thing because, folks, we have for 40, 50 years as a real estate investing community, we have sat on the sidelines and we have let people come in and just literally steal our lunch. And we've got to stop letting that happen.
I love it. I love it. Well, thanks again for being on the podcast today, Jeff. And until next time, Do It Movement listeners, see ya!
Thank you for tuning into our show. If you need more handholding on your rental property investor journey, book a 15-minute strategy session with Martine. We can see if you're a fit for the Freedom Inc. fam, link in the show notes. Also be sure to join the free Freedom Inc. Facebook group, where each week Martine goes over a real-life rental property investor deal and shows you how the deal was found, how to get the money, and how to make it cash flow and much more. If you'd like to connect with Lori, be sure to email her at vitalizeproperties@live.com. Until next time, see you.